Well, I'm going to state to you what's been on my mind here for a few days. I wanted to start with my favorite bumper sticker at UC Berkeley. It was economic growth is capital punishment, and then let you ask questions off of that.
Well, it leads right into my first question, which was to be something like, how is greenwash financed? That's one way of entering the conversation, but basically the creation of a false economy around certain ideas that appear to be prosperous or people want to go for because they're into making profit and they don't know too much about anything else, so they're not thinking about that stuff. But there's this whole hoo-ha, that gets built up around things. It's the tulip economy, but we apply
Yeah,
it to things like, EV batteries, solar power, all these things that can be really good, but unfortunately, because the world's markets get focused on that, there's a great deal of pressure, to come up with the
yes.
goods, with the mine. The mine is okayed at that point, so yeah, I'll hand it back to you. Is that kind of homing in on the idea?
Yes. I can go there, but where that takes us, where economic growth and capital punishment, as I said earlier, greenwashing won't feed us. Greenwashing won't solve any of the geopolitical problems that we have now. If anything, might make them a bit worse as countries try harder for their perceived share. So the talking for me from Thanksgiving to coming out of Black Friday has left me with a absolute determination to speak what's at the core of my activism. And that is this matter of why I went to school in the first place to study psycholinguistics. Trying to understand how a lump of clay could come to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. um, so what I will put before you, and you can do with it. I respect your field as a filmmaker. You will do with it. I am not only suggesting. I wish to say that if I could, if I had the magic wand to do it, I would get all the tanks parked, all of the destroyers at dockside, and all the bombers landed, and all of the atomic bombs in storage, and bring about a world pause to kick off 2024. Um, we have nothing on the agenda in front of us except how in the world do we come to a world at ease? I don't like the world peace so much. It's kind of a political world. But I do like the phrase of a, a planet that is at ease with itself. And so I think we're smart enough to do that. And I think once we pull back the military budget, we'll have the money to do the right thing. So in some way, we have on the face of the earth now a opportunity due to all of the, you could even say, bear traps we've been stepping into, uh, to turn this thing around and have a new day before us of peace, because the greenwashing, is focused on consumption, and more consumption is just not going to be the answer. It's already been written that we need another planet to stand by just offshore to harvest. Well, what good's that going to be? When are we going to need the third one? So, as one of my guys, as you know, Buckminster Fuller said, we have to learn to do more with less. That is the absolute truth of it. We have to take pride in our family's ability, in our sons and daughters' ability to take us on this road of doing more with less. And so you could say that I got a sailor's cap on because I'm ready to go on this new voyage. We're going to take this voyage to doing more with less. And you might notice a different temper in my voice before other interviews and this one. So this comes from my soul and my heart. And remember, there was a thing called Citizens Assembly. There was a thing called People's Parliament. So we've dreamed of this before. We've dreamed of this a long time. And so I know it's not only in the air, but it's in our minds and our hearts and somewhere in all the folders and graduate education departments in all the universities, that there is this possibility of turning the world into a collection of citizens of different countries, and they're all at ease with themselves and with each other. So I would be encouraging, you could say metaphorically, for all armies, all the soldiers of all armies and the officers to take a moment. What's that one famous statue like? We got a guy with his head down thinking about it. I submit he's thinking about how in the world can we ever come to a time of peace. I'll use the word, however, I like the term at ease better. Even truck drivers on a schedule that are hooked up with satellites to keep track of them. Well, that's not being at ease. They should let them drop off at the aunt's house at least once a week. You see what I'm getting at? We're on the clock. We're being pushed, and nobody's happy. Just read the paper. It's almost like journalists have been unleashed this last week. It's amazing. And on the internet, they've done polls, and nobody's happy at work anymore. They're just not having a good time. And they take scientific studies of trying to figure out why, and they don't get any answers. It's just a general demise. And so I will submit to you that we need each other's attention. We need each other's ears and hugs and congratulations. And there's something very important about our ambiance, if you will, our spirit sides intermixing and glowing and coming together. We need to be working together, whatever the definition is. I know there's some people employed and they just have to go to work one day a week, or some people can be blessed with even a few days a month at work, and that really suits them if they have a family to raise. Other times we need to be a team. We have to really be a team and feel for our place, in that team. And so the environmental movement that I took part in, I accepted the journalist boxing up and labeling me of what I was. But I was not an environmentalist. I was not a pacifist. I was a steward, if you will. I was the steward of the life of this planet's metabolism. There's something about that that's very sacred. All the Aboriginal tribes understood it. We like to show the primitive savages, dancing in rhythm in the dust and waving their spears, but without a clue of what their beliefs were. And so there are thankfully a few anthropologists who were accepted and got to the core of it. And we can finding out that they were dancing for the spirit world. And so we've come a long way, we've come a long way. And now it's time to pause. I'm submitting for next year, just around the corner. My birthday, by the way, happens to be January 11th, 1937. So I am going to make a last I know I'm in my final decade for sure. Um, I'm putting the last decade of my life into this effort to give the world a shake, if you will, and say, look here, this is ridiculous. How can we spend multi millions of dollars on a single jet aircraft when 10 or 20 million would be so much elsewhere? It just doesn't make any sense anymore. And I think we're beginning to realize that. It's like we've backed into an obstruction. We backed into a limitation, but we haven't turned around yet to see what it is. Um, so maybe I can do some good by promoting others who are with me. I know I'm not alone. I know that. Call me a dreamer if you will, but that's another bumper sticker, huh? I'm a dreamer, but I'm not alone. So
Beautiful.
we know, Robert, we know. So that's my stand for today, you might say. But I will also say that the youth of my recycling efforts in Modesto, they really like to come by and see the activity. They were seeing the recycling efforts of our curbside programs. They just love to break the bottles. They love to understand magnetism. We had a magnetic head pulley on a conveyor, and that would separate the metal cans from the aluminum cans. And they would just come up there, skid their bikes to a stop, listen to it, and see the aluminum cans drop off the belt right away, and then the tin cans would come off later. And then we tried to do a three-way split so that the belt was fast enough, it would project the bottles ahead, and then the tin cans would stick on and come around, and then the aluminum cans would drop free. And it worked good if they were dry. And I think that's part of the problem. What happened with us sending all our goods to China? They were wet and moldy, and they stuck together because the labels started dissolving off the cans and bottles. So we sent them garbage, but we know how to do it better. And I think the programs are all going to go to a multi-container, and so we can do better. Well, that's an insight of what can apply to this matter of how do we ever get to a world at ease. We can apply ourselves. I think the answers are right there for our learning. Um, but we have to make the effort. We have to decide that's the goal. We've all accepted our sons are going to be of a certain age. They're going to have to register, and they may have to go off and serve time, if not go into a conflict. But I would say, I would plead with everyone coming up this new year, go ahead, we'll have a blowout. We've already spent the money on the parties, for New Year's Day. Okay, but then that's a sign off. Make that a sign off. We're going to go into a time of at ease with ourselves. A lot of us blame themselves. I blamed myself, kind of a fear of success thing for a while. I enjoyed doing the work of it, but I couldn't stand up there and take credit. I just always had little short speeches about just do the best you can. Get a hold of a piece of it you enjoy doing and do that and do the best you can. We'll see you all next month. That's about what I would say. But I've learned now that we have people who, I don't know what it is, the visionaries, leaders, whatever that is, that people have are standouts for us. I'm so embarrassed to use the example, but how in the world did Alexander the Great ever get coined for what he did? It was only because he was famous at 21, or I think he died at 21. He was just famous as a young man. Well, look what he did. Look what he did to get there. Somehow we don't say back up and take the bull by the horn. I considered making notes for today, and I didn't make any notes. I just wanted to speak to you all as straightforwardly as I could. Wouldn't everyone prefer to live in a world without the threat of nuclear bombs hanging over them if their government do the right thing? My goodness, I don't think whatever you want to identify as a creator, all that has gone into creating this wonderful planet before us, mountains, water, water. Oh my goodness, how important is it? The first thing we do, we get off this planet, we go looking for water. So we know how important it is. And right now we're de-icing the planet. Changes the temperature of the atmosphere. The currents are all going to change. It changes the salinity of the ocean, and on and on and on. It's not right. This is not a thing to do. It's possible for somebody else who has the same inclination to be a speaker, to be, say, a minister of the planet Earth's future, to get off on this other track of a religious thing where the creator of the earth didn't intend this. For heaven's sakes, stupidity. We're blowing it up one chunk after another. And if we don't blow it up, we mine it up and then throw it in the dump. The dumps are huge piles of resources. And I submit to you that we will probably now, I could learn of a research project somewhere on the planet of how to take that dump apart and recover all the good stuff from it. And we will probably learn that even there's trace elements hidden away in there that are recoverable in addition to the metals that are obvious. And then we would end up with organics to be further composted or biologically digested. And then some burning, probably would we? We could clean it up so we're not putting our batteries, little teeny batteries in the burner. We could do that. So there's work to do, and by golly, that's equals jobs, right? Work equals jobs. So I'm not pleading for it, but I'm pointing out at some point we will transfer money from military expenditures to planet stewardship. I think the environmental movement was good. It gave the journalists, a place in the copy room to argue for their environmental stories. But I think stewardship would have been threatening because it means you're getting more with less. You're out there doing stewardship in the paddocks, in the mountain fields, and so on, making sure when we log, we do it respectfully as well as efficiently, and we don't leave any down broken trees behind us, and we replant. So the whole budgetary items, you might say, in the budget for humankind on this planet, they will change. They will absolutely change. I've assembled equipment for a podcast, and I still need help putting the wires together. But I will get a helper, and I will have a podcast, and I look forward to talking about this matter of stewardship. There'll be recorded programs when I start, and I so much enjoyed television at an early age, these talk shows that had guests, and some of the MCs were comical and whatnot. Well, I think I'm going to develop my podcast from recorded shows to having guests. I'll be doing maybe something 3 or 4 days a week. I'm full of it, and I want to get on with the show.
So this idea of stewardship, does stewardship mean that your financial profitability is less or more?
Well, financial possibilities less, yes. We don't have elders like tribes of Aboriginal people do. I've seen elders work, most notably in the Blackfeet Reservation. They realized Montana. They realized they couldn't walk across a burnt-over prairie and have one Blackfoot, so they don't accept our calling on the Blackfoot Reservation. But it's bad English maybe to say Blackfeet Reservation. I don't know why it is. Maybe it just seems off to the map makers, the white map makers. Anyway, I have seen elders sit. They have days, you might say, of review. They shall come out into the shade or the sunlight, whatever their choice would be, and they sit with their staff and they receive people. It's much like some of the things we do in some of our Christian churches, but they're not a minister, they're an elder. They may have done ceremonies in the past and probably did, but there's something magical about being received. Some Hollywood actors have caught on to this too, of having a receiving line, but mostly that's not the way that we do it. We seem to be more attracted to huge, rushous audiences, maddening cheering, and huge parties with buffet tables with maybe 200 choices of things to eat, and they'll sit in some honored place and watch this extravaganza, and a few friends get to talk with them or eat with them. Well, no, we have to learn to respect our elders. I at one point, my wife, married Pacius, my first wife. I have been married twice. My first wife would go to a dog checked over by the vet, uh, a deaf Jack Russell Terrier, a white one, and we'd visit hospitals. And oh, that was wonderful. That was just wonderful. And so it's yes, there's the hospital surprise of it, of the glory of of doing a visit like that. But there's also something. I know that many of you, for instance, have fed horses apples over the fence, not having any idea what their name was or who owned them. But I could just hold up an apple, over the top of the fence and just make any kind of a noise. Watch the horse's head, and the ears would pop up, and then come over and feed him the apple. And as you listen to that crunching and swallowing, and then them being patient and waiting for a second or a third apple, there's a juncture of some kind, where to the point that I think now of humanity on the planet as one body, capital B, one body. Humanity is one body. And so this is what we have to heal. We're trashing our planet where we grew up. I often think of what I like to import grapes year round, and so I have my UN elbow here. I tell the kids, and I ask them just to put their hand on their elbow when I give little talks. I've given more talks to children than I have to youth clubs, by the way. So I have had youth activism, but I haven't talked to today's 4-H clubs and so on. But kids with their hand on their elbow, and ask them close their eyes and imagine the forest out, molecule or atom, whichever word they like, is on their elbow, and then we talk about where it came from. It's been on a long trip, and I can take them back through that trip all the way back to dinosaurs adding their calcium in their bones to the ground, which they have on the end of their elbow. And I really wish I could be a fly on the wall when they get home and tell their mom they have a dinosaur on their elbow. I think that would be a wonderful thing. But that's part of the teaching that we must have to respect life and our bodies, and the fact that, yes, death is a natural thing. And we can all get a little help along the way. And then to have some respect, we need something more. Have you seen those photographs? All of you out there, have you seen those photographs of military cemeteries? Thousands of crosses all lined up perfectly. Does that really honor them in any way? We need some other way of doing that. Um, I don't know what to suggest, but I have imagined a family place where it could be known that everybody that is of that family, what their favorite plant was, or what their favorite food was. That's important, you know. Um, he he was shot on the beach after he wrote a letter home. Couldn't wait to get home to some of Aunt Emma's stew again. Something like that, you know. Um, a human note. And we're struggling now as the planet is warming to cool it. And the only specific thing I want to mention is burn less fossil fuels. All of us, carpools. This is hard here in Tier C. We're a little place. You could spend more gas trying to pick people up than if they all three drove maybe to their job separately. There's no real industry to speak of here. We do have the hot water bath, and we still have a few people in the country who like to soak in certain minerals spirits, and some even drink it too. I'm drinking the hot water here in Truth to Consequences. Maybe that's why I can carry on as I do. I don't know. Um, but I'm coming up on, I think it's 88 this next January. I'm born in 37. I guess that'd be right. Anyway, um, stewardship. This is the word now for the world. Getting more with less. Go back and look at Bucky Fuller's work. Take a lesson from him.